What is the Abrahamic Covenant? We're going to answer that question. First, this is a brief overview of the Abrahamic Covenant. To dive deep into this topic, please visit our website, gotquestions.org. A covenant is an agreement between two parties. There are two basic types of covenants: conditional and unconditional. A conditional covenant is an agreement where both parties agree to fulfill certain conditions. If either party fails to meet their responsibilities, the covenant is broken and neither party is liable. An unconditional covenant is an agreement between two parties, but only one of the two parties has to do something. Nothing is required of the other party. The actual Abrahamic Covenant is found in Genesis 12:1-3. God made promises to Abraham that required nothing of him. The ceremony recorded in Genesis chapter 15 indicates the unconditional nature of the covenant. Close study of the passage reveals that God's instructions and his actions are what solidify it as an unconditional covenant. Principally, a promise by God. God caused a sleep to fall upon Abraham, ensuring the fulfillment of the covenant fell to him alone. On a side note, God gave Abraham the rite of circumcision as the specific sign of the Abrahamic Covenant. All males in Abraham's line were to be circumcised and thus carry with them a lifelong mark in their flesh that they were part of God's physical blessing in the world. God determined to call out a special people for himself, and through that special people, he would bring blessing to all the nations. The Abrahamic Covenant is paramount to a proper understanding of the kingdom concept and is foundational to Old Testament theology. Its promises should be understood literally. In this case, the word land refers to actual land and isn't metaphoric. The covenant is everlasting, meaning the promises that God made to Israel are eternal. There are three main features to the Abrahamic Covenant. Number one, the promise of land. God called Abraham from where he was to a land that he would give to him. This promise was confirmed by a shoe covenant, and its dimensions are given in Genesis chapter 15, verses 18-21. The land aspect of the Abrahamic Covenant is later expanded. Number two, the promise of descendants. God promised Abraham, who was 75 years old and childless, that he would make a great nation out of him and promised many descendants. Number three, the promise of blessing and redemption. God promised to bless Abraham and the families of the earth through him. This promise foreshadows the forgiveness of sin. God's method of fulfilling the Abrahamic Covenant is literal. History shows God's partial fulfillment so far. God blessed Abraham by giving him the land, and centuries later, the sons of Abraham took control of that land. God blessed Abraham spiritually, and he gave him numerous descendants. An important element of the Abrahamic Covenant has yet to come to pass: fulfillment with Messiah's kingdom rule. Israel as a nation will possess the totality of the land in the future. Israel as a nation will be converted, forgiven, and restored, and Israel will repent and receive the forgiveness of God in the future. The Abrahamic Covenant finds its ultimate fulfillment in connection with the return of Messiah to rescue and bless his people Israel. It is through the nation Israel that God promised in Genesis 12:1-3 to bless the nations of the world. That ultimate blessing will issue in the forgiveness of sins and Messiah's glorious kingdom rule on earth. That answers the question, what is the Abrahamic Covenant? Research this question further on our website, gotquestions.org. Be sure to click subscribe and check out these other questions.